Okay, are we ready?
Ready.
It is now 5:02. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dave McDonald, Chairman of the Sewer Commission. I will do a roll call to confirm that all members and persons anticipated or on the agenda are here. Please respond by saying here or affirmative. John Reynolds,
Here.
Mike Knoll, Brett Ramson,
Here.
Carl Luck.
Here.
And Mike, we're going to ask you just to acknowledge you're here. I know you're not on the commission yet, but I can see, but if you want to just confirm it.
Here.
And Mike, are you hooked in? I see you hooking in. Okay. Jack? Roger?
Present.
Jane,
Here.
I know you're here. You're on mute. These are the anticipated speakers that are on the agenda. Please respond with a yay. Dave Moran?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And I can't unmute you people, so if I call your name, please unmute your speaker. Lauren Hurdle
Yes, I'm here.
and Kelly Mitchell.
Here.
Okay, in accordance to the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised. I'm sorry?
Hi.
Oh, there you are, Mike.
I was all the way in.
Okay, now I got to start it back at the bidding. Good afternoon. In accordance to the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and this meeting of the Sewer Commission is now being conducted remotely. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19, is currently following the guidance of the Lunenburg Board of Health, Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding virus and steps communities that can take to prevent the spread of all town facilities are currently closed to the public. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, all public meetings are being conducted remotely in order which we can find posted at the town website on COVID-19. Information center page access through the town manager's website allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access and afford that the public can follow along in deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not enable public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comments. For the meeting of the Sewer Commission is conveying to video conference via the Zoom app and is posted to the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take care not to share your screen. Your computer or any broadcast may be captured by the recording. Okay? I hope we don't have to keep on saying this much longer, guys. Announcements. Bob, what do you got?
Oh, my normal, just to remind people that the billings have there's two billings out there that have not had late charges or interest applied. And everyone has till June 29th to make that payment, or interest will be applied as of June 30th. So you can either pay it online at lunenburgma.gov, mail it into the collector's office, PO Box 135, or drop it off at the drop box outside of the DPW on 520 Chase Road. The irrigation meter policy implementation date has been moved to 9/1/20 in order to give people time to get their remote read capabilities added to their irrigation meters. And the irrigation meter program fees were due on June 4th. I've received about 50%, but you need to get it in if you want to get credit on your August invoice.
Okay.
Okay.
And this Saturday is a town meeting. It's to be held at the high school, and it's at 9 a.m. The town elections are going to be 6/20. We're having a writing campaign, which I'd like to talk about later at the end. So if you guys, so consider that, we'll just move that to the end. Public comment. Is there any public comment from the members? Mike?
Good.
Carl?
Yeah, Dave, I just wanted to comment on Barb. It may be different, but I think you said that the payments, if they were late, would be interest would be effective June 30th. And unless it's different than the town, that if it's after June 29th, my understanding is the interest and penalties go back to the original due date, which was June 1st. Is that the case here? I think that's the
Yeah,
case in the town.
it's the same thing. People have through June 29th to make the payment. If they don't make it until the 30th, interest from March 23rd for Q3 and June 23rd for Q4 will be applied. So it
Okay.
behooves them to get it in by the 29th of June.
Great, thank you. Want to make sure that was clear to everybody.
Okay,
That's it.
when I go across this public comment or anything, I'm going by my screen, guys. It's not random. It's just the way you guys have laid out on my screen. Brett, any public comment?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if anybody noticed that email from Heather regarding the write-in or sticker nominee.
Yep.
She had sent, I assume everybody that's involved here, some of the details from the state and the rules regarding write-ins. I assume it applies here as well, but I guess with write-ins, they have to write in not only our name, but our address, so it doesn't count, according to the state.
I don't think that's right. I think they got to write in your name and then circle the little circle next to it.
Okay.
That's the way it's been done in the past. And again, there's going to be a sheet given out. Bob, did you send that sheet out on the addendum?
It was, yep.
We sent you a sheet probably about an hour before the meeting.
Yeah, I got it.
If you can take that, copy it, send it to all your friends you know, so when they go to election, they have that sheet. And hopefully, again, we're going to talk about this at the end on the exiting comments. But that's the easiest way for us as a commission to get our name on there. But it's just name and fill in the little dot next to it. And I did talk to Kathy at the town hall to let her know what to expect. She has a copy of that as well, because sometimes it's hard to read names, so that'll make it easier for her. But again, the election is open to everybody, so please come and vote for anybody. Really, we just want you to come and vote. Any other questions, Brett?
No, that's it. I'm glad you cleared that up.
John?
All set.
Okay, and Mike? Want to see if you have any comments so far. Mike ED.
Nope, I didn't get that email that Brett was talking about, probably because I'm not on the email list, but I guess you're going to go over.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Or Bob, if you get a chance, can you send that?
I didn't get it either. If you can send it to me, that would be.
You sent it out.
No, oh, I mean the Heather's email about the write-in.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
I'll send Mike the write-in.
Okay. The last public comment would be from me. I just want to thank everybody who came out and supported the Salvation Army this last weekend on the donut days. We had a tremendous turnout at the center of town, and from the bottom of our hearts, we wanted to thank all the first responders, nurses, anybody who's helped anybody from big shop stores, Walmarts, the Hannafords, to the little guys doing the gas stations. Again, thank you for the community for helping everybody else out. Let's get right into the first agenda item. And that's going to be Lauren from Woodland and Curran. Lauren, you there? And Lauren, do you have a
Yes,
video?
I am.
Do you have a video? You got-
I do. Let me, don't know. Sorry, I apologize. Yeah, it's not going to show me. I don't know why. I've tried this before and it only goes out. And I also have, two little kids at home with me, so I apologize for any background noise. But we definitely appreciate, having the opportunity to meet with you all tonight and talk through our progress on the II evaluation.
Okay.
So we have a presentation that I think it'd probably be best if Kelly Messer would be able to share the PowerPoint with y'all, and then we can start to run through the slides. So is that something we can do on this call?
We'll give it a try. Kelly, are you there?
Yes, when I hit share screen, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. So I don't know if you need to allow access for me to share my screen.
Try that.
Try it again. it still says disabled.
Okay, so Bob, can you check yours? Because mine's saying the same thing, host disabled participant screen sharing.
I don't have any,
You gotta click on the shared screen.
host disabled. Who is the host?
Should have been Heather. Hold on. Sorry, Kelly, hold on for a second.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Mike D, while we're holding, I don't have your email to send you. If you've gotten something,
I think I have you included on an email. I will just reply back to your email.
great, thank you. It didn't come up then. And I'm unable to chat on this one. I don't know why.
I will say, sorry, this is David Moyer from Water and Kern. When I joined the meeting, it had said that the host had not yet joined. So I don't know if that means that nobody is the host currently, but
No,
I can't speak to any of that.
We have a host, it's probably Heather.
Do you want me to text her?
Yes, could you do that? In the meantime, Kelly, if you want to describe for the public and for this committee, what you guys have done and where you're going.
Sure. Yep, I have the presentation up. So Lauren, I know you were going to take the first couple slides. Do you want me to just jump into it since I have it in front of me?
I would.
Okay. Okay, so we have a presentation. Hopefully we can get it up for you guys soon for our third-party IIM review. So we have our project status per the RFP. So our first bullet point was the kickoff meeting, which has been completed. Review of background data completed. Data evaluation, which is in progress. So we have a few sub bullet points for that bullet point itself. Compare pump station data against build data that has been completed. Identify areas of concern in regards to II that has been completed. Evaluate inconsistencies of contract work completed versus sources of II that is in progress. And then quantify the reduction of II versus rehab work completed in 2011. So that we kind of want to save as a point of discussion for the end of the presentation. And then we have our interim meeting, which is currently in progress. Final report is our next step. And then the Excel algorithm is also in progress, and we will discuss that further in the presentation. So for our agenda for the presentation, we have the pump station data review, and then followed up with a pump station analysis. We have preliminary II trends, a description of the Excel tool status, and then next steps for us and for the team. So my next slide has a table on it. I will do my best to describe it while we are waiting. So we have our pump station data review. So to jump right in, the first step in our review was to take a look at the weekly pump station logs that was provided by Small Water System Services. So I have an Excel screenshot in the tape, in the slide itself, which I will show you guys eventually. It's a weekly log example of the Meadowwoods pump station, just to show the raw data that was provided to us, and then a smaller table below that on how we manipulated the data. So we had pump rates pulled from the 2017 drawdown report that was completed by Weston and Sampson, and these rates were then multiplied by the run times for each week for each pump. So each pump station has the 2 pumps. We took the run times, converted that to minutes, and then multiplied it by the pump rate. And that essentially gives you an estimated gallons pumped for 1 week. So we're taking a rate to a volume. So the problem with analyzing this data on a weekly basis was that we encountered significant data gaps. So we were looking at pump station logs dating back to 2017 all the way up through 2020. However, there were over 160 weeks worth of blank entries or no data associated in the spreadsheets from Smallwater, which was kind of a roadblock for us. So it was then decided the best way to kind of continue our pump station analysis was to compare data on a quarterly basis as opposed to weekly, to help us kind of move around those significant data gaps we were seeing week to week. So before moving forward with this quarterly analysis, we actually conducted just a simple data check to ensure the pump station data we were working with made sense. So to do this, we calculated the total flow for 1 week at each pump station using the methodology I just described of taking the pumping rate and the runtime. And so then the next step was calculating the net flows. So essentially we took 1 week where we had thorough data for each pump station, and then we calculated the total gallons pumped for 1 week at each pump station. So then we put together a schematic of all the pump stations to help visualize where they're located upstream or downstream of certain pump stations. We have that data in GIS, but a basic schematic is usually more helpful in visualizing that. So all pump stations in the flow chart are white boxes, and we have arrows pointing to the next downstream pump station. So in this slide, we put the total gallons measured at each pump station for 1 week above each box. And for us to really kind of gauge the flow coming in between pump stations, we had to take the net flow. So an example of that is we have the Leominster Road pump station, which is directly downstream of Mass Ave 1 and 2, Francis Ave and West Street. So theoretically, we want to see what flows are coming in between where it's leaving Mass Ave 1, 2, Francis Ave and West Street, and before it's hitting the Leominster Road pump station. So the problem with that is when we took the net flow, we had a negative value, which isn't theoretically possible. So we kind of took a look at the values of the upstream pump stations, and we're noticing that Mass Ave 1 was significantly higher. Leominster Road had 360,000 gallons in 1 week, and Mass Ave 1 had over 530,000. So that was kind of an indicator to us that there's some sort of issue going on with the pump stations themselves. So that definitely warrants additional investigation. So kind of the next step with that, there are some potential issues that could be going on with the pump stations themselves, and they're primarily O&M, operation and maintenance problems with the pumps themselves, including impellers that may have defects or have become inefficient over time. Ragging could be a recent problem unless ragging has been an issue in the past. I don't know if you guys have had those kinds of problems. There's also leaky check valves or inconsistent bursts of flow. So all of those factors could lead to these discrepancies in pump station data that we're seeing. Another potential factor could be the wet well sizing. So we were looking at the 2017 drawdown report. Again, that was kind of our main reference for this. And based on the wet well drawdown test, Mass Ave 1 and Leominster Road had the same size wet well. So it was an 11 by 11 wet well, and we're curious maybe there could be some sort of issue and accuracy with that, since Leominster Road is downstream collecting significantly more flow. We're not sure if there could be maybe an error in the drawdown report of some sort. Let's see. So
Kelly.
Oh.
Just a thought. If we sent an email of the PowerPoint presentation to Barb, could she share it with everyone? So I know we can't share it on the screen, unfortunately, but at least everyone can follow along. Because I know you created some great charts that I think would be helpful for everyone to see too.
Yeah, Barb, I can send this over to you, and then do you want to distribute it
I
to
can.
everybody? Okay, awesome. Let me.
Did Heather get back?
I'm trying to log in, given the information she had provided last. I'm going to have to, it says I have to leave this and join another, so I'm going to try it. I'll be back.
Okay. Bye.
But in the meantime, this is Carl. In the meantime, Woodward and Kern, you'll send email all of the presentation material to Barb. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yep,
we'll
I'm
get that sent over
sending the
now.
PowerPoint right now in an email.
Great.
So while that's going on, anybody have any questions for Lauren up to that point?
Dave, I got a question. So are you guys doing this just to see what the like efficiency of the pump of each pump station is? And like what trying to figure out like when the pumps went in, or, like life of the pumps, and if their efficiency is starting to go down, and trying to like project out if they need to be replaced before they fail?
No, what we're trying to find is I&I. That's water going into the system, not from a house, but from either
There you go.
broken
The-
pipe
We'll
or
transfer to
so
Dave
when it
now.
rains, for
Okay,
example, more
thank you.
water is going to
Okay.
Leominster than what is coming out.
I apologize, everybody.
That's okay.
What the hell's going on here?
Hold on, we gotta work this out.
So Kelly, this is Scott Medeiros. Kelly, can you email the file to Dave and Dave can run it if we can't figure out?
Yeah, I just sent it to Barb and Carl, so I don't know if they want to forward it along. Or Dave, I can see your email right there. I can send it to you.
Yeah, hold on, I'm still, it's really screwed up. Hold on one second, guys.
Yeah.
Now, let's see if we can send this, who wants this? As far as, do the presentation?
I would. I haven't gotten it in my inbox yet.
Well, or you could try to give it to Kelly. If you can give it to Kelly, then if we can make that work, then Kelly can just run it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Okay. Kelly, try that.
Oh, success. Okay, cool. 1 second. Let me just get it set up.
You should be able to do it, right?
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out which screen. Can you guys see the PowerPoint? Oh,
There you go.
Yep.
you can
Okay.
see it? Okay, awesome. Okay, let's see. All right, so I guess I can go back a little bit just to kind of show you guys what I was talking about with the, all right, so go back to the beginning. Thank you guys for your time. I'm just trying to get one more things up. Okay, so like I said, we kind of went through that RFP status, and we do have kind of a point of discussion for the end, but obviously if you guys have questions, let us know. Agenda, like I said, we'll go through the data review, the pump station analysis, preliminary II trends, the Excel tool, and next steps. This is kind of what I was talking about with the weekly logs. So actually, I think I have a pointer here I can do. That top section of this screenshot is the raw data we received from Wastewater. So this is one specific week for one specific pump station. And we essentially took the runtime, so RTM1 and RTM2 are for each pump within the pump station, calculated the runtime in hours, converted to minutes, and then multiplied it by the pump rate determined in the 2017 drawdown report. And that gave us the total gallons pumped through one pump station at 1 week. So just to do kind of a sanity check to make sure the data we are working with kind of made sense, we ran through that for the week ending in January 7th, back in 2017, for each of the pump stations. And you can see above each box, we have the total gallons. And so these arrows essentially are pointing to whatever pump station is directly downstream. So kind of like I was mentioning before, we have Leominster Road as an example with 4 direct upstream pump stations. So in order for us to figure out what flow is coming in between these two, so once it leaves Mass Ave 2, what additional flow is coming in before Leominster Road, we want to take the net flow. And we did kind of come across a problem. So the Leominster Road was significantly lower than what we were seeing in Mass Ave 1. So we're seeing about 500,000 gallons at Mass Ave 1 and only 360,000 at Leominster Road. So we were getting a negative net value, which it really isn't possible. So that's kind of like I was saying, we're seeing maybe some problems going on within the pump stations. It may be isolated to just Mass Ave 1 and Leominster Road, or there may be some additional issues going on. So this was essentially just a sanity check for us before we started digging into the quarterly analysis. And after some discussion, we kind of came up with some potential issues for you guys, and the majority of them are operation and maintenance related. So there could be some impellers in need of maintenance, working inefficiently. There could be some ragging problems, like I mentioned before. I don't know if you guys have a history of ragging in the pump stations, or leaky check valves, or burst of flow. And then potentially with the 2017 drawdown report from Weston and Sampson, we pulled screenshots from the wet well drawdown tests, and Mass Ave 1 and Leominster Road are actually the same size. And so we're wondering maybe with the drawdown tests, there could have been an issue since the slope and ratio are a little bit different. So that could be a contributing factor. We're not really sure, but that definitely warrants some additional investigation. But then we get into the actual pump station analysis. So we proceeded with the quarterly pump station analysis, even though we did kind of find some issues in the 1-week data review. We utilized the water usage data provided by the town to compare to the wastewater flows being measured at each pump station. And what we found was similar to the ongoing issues the town has faced, with the water usage being significantly lower than the calculated pump station flows. So this graph in particular shows the Mass Ave 3 pump station, and the wastewater totals are in orange, and the water usage is in green. And as you can see, over the course of 3 years, so from July 2017 all up until January 2020, we're seeing some really consistent, significant gaps. So these numbers in general seem extremely high, especially for an upstream pump station that really isn't collecting flow from a large amount of gravity sewer. So, and like I said, these large data gaps were consistent across years and also consistent throughout each of the pump stations in the quarterly analysis that we did. So this is kind of indicating that the huge data gap we're seeing in this graph isn't just an isolated problem. And so after seeing these large data gaps, we kind of referred back to previous reports to see, apologies, it's loud in the background. The cars are kind of loud nearby. But yeah, so after seeing these large data gaps, we wanted to refer back to previous reports that have been completed to see if this potentially has been an issue in the past and documented as so. So these screenshots are from the spring 2011 metering report from Weston and Sampson. And the top table contains records of total flow measured at the Leominster Road pump station for various rain events and also a dry day. So as you can see in the red box in the upper right, we have flow totals that are about 1.3 million gallons on the 12th of April. So, and then the bottom table contains the flow totals from the specific meter that had been installed by flow assessment that was directly downstream of this pump station. So theoretically, these values should be pretty close. However, the totals measured by the meter on the same day only measured 0.064 million gallons, which is an equivalent of 64,000 gallons. And even if we considered maybe the rain event started on the 11th and continued through the 13th, those values summed up still aren't large enough to even make a dent in the total flow that's being theoretically pumped at this pump station. So with this review, it kind of seems like if the pump station issue isn't new, it has existed for almost a decade. So it was in this report, but it didn't really make it into the discussion portion of the report, which was kind of interesting. But so the quarterly pump station analysis revealed more issues than essentially concrete solutions. So we decided to pursue a different kind of analysis to hopefully identify II trends within the system. So to do this, we pulled historic rainfall data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration that actually dates back to 2017. So we had full rainfall data over the course of 3 years. And then we took this and compared it to the weekly pump station totals. Like we mentioned, the weekly data from small water was fairly incomplete. So we used weeks that had populated runtime totals to compare to the rainfall. And this comparison would allow us to see if there are any areas that spiked in flow when a rain event occurred. And this is an indicator of an II problem. So ideally, these spikes would indicate which areas are more prone to II within the system. So this is just an example of the pump station flows at each pump station compared to the rainfall that we pulled from NOAA. So the blue bars are the rainfall, and their units are referenced on the right-hand side of the y-axis. So this is in inches. And then we have our flows from the pump stations as lines in gallons pumped. So this is a 12-week period, about a 12-week period in the spring into summer, because ideally that's when you want to conduct your II analysis, because you'll see the most significant II effects in the system. So using the data that we had that was populated, we plotted these against the rainfall. And you can see there's 2 areas that had significant rainfall. So end of April, early May, and then end of May to early June. And what we're seeing is you can kind of see, so Twin Cities, this light blue line, you can see direct impacts. You can see this completely increases. We have a spike. And although it shifted after the rain event, there could be some delayed flow getting in there, so it may not react immediately. So that's why it could kind of happen later on after the actual rain event happened. So we have a spike, and then we kind of come back down to normalize out. We get more rain, and then we spike again. And it's kind of similar with MassF2. It may not be as drastic. It's more of a rounded curve, but we are still seeing a spike here and another spike after this rain event in early June. And so this graph itself doesn't include all of the pump stations because Massa 1 and Danish Street had volumes so much higher than the rest that it was really hard to kind of see and determine spikes in other flows at pump stations. So this graph is specifically dedicated to Massa 1 and Danish Street, same kind of setup. We have precipitation in blue, and then the flow totals in gallons pumped for the lines. So you can kind of see Massa 1 also has these delayed spikes in flow after those 2 significant rain events. So we have another spike, comes down a little bit, then we have some rain, and then there's that delayed spike again. So we kind of took those 3, we took Twin City, Massa 1, and Massa 2, and then plotted them on their own against the average base flow. So realistically, this is ideally completed when you have a metering program and you have 15-minute incremental data, so it's super precise. But we took what we had and we took the flows from dry days across this 12-week period, average that out, and that's what this black dotted line is. So that's your average base flow. So theoretically, anything that's plotted above this line is II contributing to the system. So like we were saying, we start out closer to the base flow and then we have these rain events and then it spikes. So this is kind of indicating to us that there is an II problem because you're having these spikes occurring above the average base flow, but you'll see towards the end, it does kind of dip below, which is normal when we're using weekly data as opposed to more precise 15-minute data, so that's why there could be some discrepancies there. So this was for Mass Ave 1. Mass Ave 2, not as distinct, but you can still kind of see some jumps. The average base flow is higher, but we're also seeing spikes that are higher. So we have this average base flow, a little over 80,000, but we're seeing spikes going up to almost 120,000 gallons. So that's kind of an indicator that Mass Ave 2 could also be a problem. And then Twin City, these are very distinct. You can see there's a legitimate reaction occurring after these rain events, delayed flow coming in, kind of getting back to normal to its average base flow. And then we have more rain and then another spike. And then again, like I said, there could be some discrepancies because of how
Hey, Kelly,
accurate.
this is David Morin from Water and Current again. I just wanted to jump in really quick, wanted to give Kelly a chance to breathe. But this analysis that we did, I did want to point out that because we've noticed that there are some issues with the pump station data, this is purely just to look at trends. You know, we're not trying to provide like an amount of II that we see. It's more just kind of like Kelly said, we're evaluating to look at some of these peaks. We see that there could be some potential indicators of II, like she said, with these peaks, and that it's worth looking into, but we don't have like definitive answers. It's more, like I said, a trend because we've seen these issues with the pump station data. So, just wanted to kind of point that out, that it is more of a high level trend evaluation. And pardon my associate.
Thanks, David. Yep. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that and giving me a little break to breathe. So then we get into the Excel tool status. Actually, I did want to go back for a second. What's interesting to point out is that we did look at the metering report from Weston Sampson in 2011, and Mass Ave was one of the areas recommended for further evaluation. So this hopefully isn't something that's kind of coming out of the blue for you guys. It was mentioned back in 2011. However, the kind of the toughest part about this analysis is the lack of weekly data on our end. So the metering report from Weston Sampson was most likely more accurate because they did have the 15-minute data, but we are still seeing those trends kind of leading towards what was presented in the 2011 report. So then the Excel tool status. So this is essentially a tool for you guys that has formulas. Well, it's formula based and essentially should produce correct results with correct data. So that's kind of the caveat here. We're working with pump station data that has a problem. There's something going on, so we really can't say with 100% accuracy that this tool will provide you the correct results if it's using incorrect data. However, the tool itself can still be used. So this can still be completed and sent off, and we can talk to you guys about it, train you guys on it, and using the data that we have. However, it cannot be fully and completely vetted unless we have reliable data. So the tool itself will be helpful eventually, and we will provide that to you guys. But I guess the only problem is that like the data that we're using essentially is not 100% reliable. And I know Barb has mentioned there's some sort of water billing format change that's going to be happening. So obviously we can modify that and then complete it to kind of appease that factor, how you guys are going to be changing the formatting and stuff like that. So there's definitely room for change and formatting updates as well. And then Lauren, I don't know if you wanted to jump in or I can keep going.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to jump in. So yeah, thank you, Kelly, for going through all of this information. I think it's a good picture of the trends that we're seeing. So we're going to take the trends and also compare it against the past reports that have been completed by the various consultants and put that into a report so that you're able to see. I know seeing it in the PowerPoint, we want to give you a sense of what we're seeing, but we'll be able to provide more detail in the report as far as how that compares to past work that has been completed. Also, because of the pump station data being such a discrepancy that we're trying to look into, we want to provide some recommendations of how can that be corrected. Kelly touched upon a few items earlier on in the presentation where this could be pump station mechanics issues that need to be addressed and further investigated. Or also it could be the wet well sizing. So maybe it's just a matter of the equation that small water that's already, you know, kind of embedded into the calcs of flow might be incorrect. So we'll provide some recommendations on what those corrections would be. And then, you know, put that all in a report for you to review and comment on. So I know that was a lot. We had a few technical difficulties, but here's our project team here. We're all on the call, I believe. I think we all made it back in. So give you a minute to, you know, digest it and ask questions. Happy to answer.
Okay, Carl?
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Yeah, this is interesting, if nothing else. Appreciate the digging into it and trying to figure out what's going on. Certainly appreciate that the algorithm is not going to give us any better answers than the data going in. So we need to find out what that issue is. To that end, if we go back to, I'd like to understand a little bit the calculation. If we go back to your slide 4, which is really sort of the example of the data processing. Can you help me? I understand that the top part is the data input from the pump station. So that is what it is. And I think you said that this bottom left little block here, P1, P2 rate runtime is what you added, and that's where you do your calculation. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. So this was a little more detailed when we compiled all of the weekly data that we have. So we actually ran a script to pull all of the runtimes from every single week and kind of create a master spreadsheet. And that's going to be a component to the algorithm and template we're going to give you guys. So this was just kind of an example of how those calculations were completed. So kind of like I was saying, if anything, if we had data gaps, this top part would essentially be blank. So we really didn't have much to work with, but it all kind of comes down to the runtime. So this is provided, so we have the previous week at 830.4 at RTM number 1. So that's your pump 1. And then you have total runtime hours for Friday on January 6th at 833. So that's an indicator. We run the calculation, we determine the total amount of hours run for the whole week for one pump. So that's this column here where you see P1, so that represents pump 1. And then the next column is the rate. So those rates were specifically taken from the 2017 drawdown report, which is interesting because some of the theoretical pump rates were either higher or lower than what was actually found during the drawdown report. So it's a little different than what Weston and Sampson used in 2011. Sorry, go ahead, Carl.
That's the column, if I could, that's the, just to understand where a very specific area. So the column that says rate, the 151 and 119, those were taken directly from the Weston Sampson calibration report?
Correct. Yep. So that's in gallons per minute.
So that to me is, and that report was a while ago, and I obviously didn't look at this level of detail in the report. But does that make sense? Because the rate, what are the units? I like units. I'm a physicist.
Oh, yeah. The rate is GPM, gallons per minute.
Gallons per minute. Okay. So it seems very strange to me that there's only one. And maybe Jack can correct me before I embarrass myself too much here, but I believe there's only one wet well, right? There's 2 pumps in one big container, essentially. Is that correct?
Hold on, Jack.
Jack there.
Yeah, I gotta unmute him.
Okay, yes, one wet well, Carl.
Yeah, one wet well
Correct.
and two which are identical pumps. So why would we get such a different, I mean, that's 40% different rate between those two pumps at that time. That doesn't feel right.
Those are
Pumps
the
are
same wet
identical,
well, right?
correct?
Sorry, can you say that again?
So P1 and P2 are in the same wet well?
Correct.
Correct. Yes, they're at the same pump station. So.
And do they alternate? So if pump 1 is running and then shuts down, and the next time it needs to pump 2 turns on?
Exactly.
So they alternate,
Yeah,
alternate run times?
They're supposed to alternate, and you know the runtime it could be different depending on what's coming in while it's pumping, I assume.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising the runtime is different, but the number of starts used to be something we always look at. The number of starts should be very well balanced if everything is going well. So,
Yep, and that you can see in the ST number 1, and then the number of starts for each pump are there as well. We primarily focused on the run times, but we did look at the number of starts as well.
Yeah, and they were always just an indication to us if one is, has very few starts, but that's not for this I&I. But the thing that's bothering me with the I&I is I've got 2 identical pumps in the same size wet well that have significantly different rates.
So if there was a damaged impeller or something,
I was thinking.
obviously it would make a difference, wouldn't it?
Mike, can you get a little closer to the microphone?
Sorry. So if there was a damaged, how close you want me, Dave? Is that good?
That's good.
Yeah, so if there was like something in the impeller or some clots, and where obviously you're not going to get exact flows out of each pump out of run time. So one pump was running more efficient than the other. That would be my analysis of it, if I'm right. But
Yeah, but would we expect? I mean, 40% seems like an awful lot for 2 pumps, and maybe that's the other variable here.
Just sometimes run
the
pump while one is
yeah,
being.
Go ahead, Brett.
Is there sometimes one pump running while another is being repaired or replaced for some time? Is that a possibility?
That does happen.
Brett, this is Pete Jandersevitz. Yes, you're right. Sometimes they'll leave the other pump running consistently. Maybe you had a pump that failed and then you didn't have a spare. So you could have that issue too. But we've worked in many projects in the past, and we've come across that we did some analysis on pump stations, and we did find that sometimes these impellers wear and it starts to decrease its efficiency. So they do need to be checked. They do need to be inspected. But the other thing that I want to kind of go back on the whole analysis of the flow. If you go back to the Weston and Sampson report, it gave you what they're operating and what they calculated, but then they also gave you the theoretical. And for example, Mass Ave 1, theoretical, the pumps were, design of the pumps were 500 gallons per minute, but they were calculating almost 720 gallons per minute. So that's why we had such a high flow at Mass Ave 1. So what could be the possibilities and why they're getting such high numbers? I don't know. But also too, we noticed that the wet well are the same dimensions. Now, yeah, you could have the same dimensions, but one could be taller than the other. But again, if you go back to the 2012 report, when they did the pump station analysis, they didn't have the wet well dimensions, but in the 2017, they did. So I don't know if they had record drawings or did they actually physically measure those wet wells. So your gallons per minute could also be inaccurate. So that's why, you do the best you can with what you got for data.
I understand.
I kind of agree with Carl. I mean, you got one pump running at 151 gallons per, or what the rate is 151, and the other one is 119. I mean, there's a significant difference in that. I mean, I'm guessing these are grinder style pumps too, correct?
Jack, hold on. Okay, John.
I mean, it could be impellers going bad. It could be a slight blockage for that one, like one line coming off the pump, or the motor, the bearings or something in that pump could be going bad.
Yeah, well, it's certainly speculation, but that's correct. It could be. I mean, one's more efficient, could be operating more efficiently than the other one. It wouldn't show up in an alarm.
Right.
That is true. That is true.
So just my sense here, you know, trying to find out where's the data going bad. I mean, these gaps we definitely got to get rid of going forward, and hopefully with our new contractor we won't have any gaps and we'll have reliable input. But I think we as a commission need to think hard about recalibrating these pump stations, and in some case we know painfully well that we've replaced pumps, so we probably need to do that. So I think when we get this algorithm, I think we need to do everything we can to get the most reliable data we can. And I think it starts with what they're doing already, taking good run data at their pump station. But I think we need to recheck these rates, because if these rates are off, then you know clearly it's just going to ripple through. And if we've changed pumps, which we have, then for sure we could be getting different numbers. So going forward, in order to effectively use this algorithm, I think we need to do a few things to make sure we get reliable data. And I think recalibrating the wet wells is probably one of them.
And Carl, just to follow up on your comment about the rates being off. So you're only seeing the Meadow Woods pump station, but it's pretty consistent throughout the rest of the pumps as well, that we are seeing kind of some discrepancies in the values for each pump. So it was kind of interesting to compare to the 2011 Weston and Sampson report, because they used the theoretical pump values, which were identical. So you're seeing at Mass Ave 1, you're seeing 500 GPM for both. But then when they did the drawdown report, we're seeing all these differences. So, I mean, it's not just an isolated spot. So we are seeing this at multiple pump stations. So just wanted to note on that.
Good point.
Kyle, excuse me. Peter, when is the final report going to be done? Or is this it?
Probably in Lauren, maybe you can jump in on this. When do we had it on their schedule to wrap this up?
Yeah, I know this meeting was pushed back. We're trying to meet like March, April timeframe for this, with the goal of June submitting the report. So now we're probably like 2 months behind. So I'd say we at least want, take all the comments from this meeting and start to regroup as a team, because I want to make sure I give you an accurate date of when we'll have this report. But we're probably about 2 months behind of our original schedule.
Okay.
The other thing, can I also too though, Carl, we did, if you go back to Kelly, go to the screen where we saw those spikes after the rain event. I mean, you still might have something of an II issue or maybe an inflow issue, because if you see the rain event that took place, and I'm assuming that some of these pump stations are in low-lying areas. I mean, have you had any histories of flooding in the area that might have, or anything like that?
Yeah, two things. One is I don't doubt for a minute that we have an I&I problem. I'm just trying to get to good data with the calibration.
Yeah.
So there's certainly an I&I problem, and we all over Lunenburg have very high water tables.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an issue, and we've seen at the high level that there's correlation between water, rain, and what we flow out of town. So what we're trying to do, obviously, is trying to find out where the heck in town are the big contributors.
Okay.
And that's what this is for. So yeah, these graphs, I'm glad you explained it, because I would have just looked at it and said, geez, they don't seem to be in phase, but the delay is important factor.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a while after a rain event, it takes a while to get through the system, and by the time it hits to the pump station, it could take a week. I mean, we're not 100% sure, but I mean, we're theoretically looking at it. And I don't know the conditions of these pump stations. We don't know if there's any issues with the wet wells. Again, we don't have any evidence of what the wet wells look like on the inside. I mean, you might have problems just at the wet wells, you know? So that could be another theory.
Can you elaborate on how that would affect the
Well, I mean, the way it would happen is that you could have an infiltration problem. You have, like you were saying, after a rain event, you can saturate, you can raise the groundwater table, and then you might have a problem coming in. And then as the time period draws down, you know, the next rain event, it takes another week for the groundwater table to come back up again. I mean, it could fluctuate.
Okay, I think I missed it. So it's a little slow here. You're saying that the wet well itself could be.
It could be. It could be.
Whatever, and taking on water. Yeah, thank you. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, so that could be another scenario. So again, we don't know what the system looks like. So we're relying on what Weston and Sampson has provided and what the data they gave us. So that's the way we're looking at this.
You know what? Let's do this. Peter, thank you for everything you and your crew has done so far. I'd like to bring it around to some of the other commissioners. Brett, do you have any questions?
I have so many questions. I don't know where to begin, except I really would feel better seeing a completed report to comment, other than I think it's obvious we have a very big I&I problem. I'm a little disturbed to think that wetlands could be directly going into the system. I don't understand how that could happen, but I would like to learn a lot more about it. And I like the report that I've seen thus far. I'm a little disturbed at the lack of information supplied from small water that is obviously affecting this report. Other than that, I'd like to see more, and I appreciate what they presented here. I'm looking forward to seeing more before I comment further.
Very good, Brett. John?
Yeah, the slight delay in the spikes after the rainstorm, I was wondering if it was related to gutters and parking lots that were tied into our system. You'd see a pretty direct relationship between the spike and the rain. But then, you know, using my own house as an example, the sump pump after a rainstorm will continue running longer for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And, you know, I don't know, is that a groundwater problem or is that an inflow problem? You know, I'm not sure where the fine line is between those two. And my other comment would be that the missing data, I think, reinforces the fact that someone, whether it's the commissioner and the sewer department, needs to be looking more closely at these reports, at, you know, what seem to be weekly or monthly discrepancies. So just a thought for moving forward.
Okay, very good. Mike?
Yeah, I agree with as far as the reports, SWS, I'm probably very disappointed with that. And we thought we had it under control. And the other thing is I'm liking what I'm seeing. I like the way they're breaking it down, going station by station and where it's coming from. So I'm just looking forward to seeing the end report, because there's obviously a problem. Hopefully we can narrow it down to 1 or 2 areas of where we got to concentrate. So thank you.
Michael D., I'll let you comment.
I think the reports are great. They give us a lot of information. And again, I agree with everybody else. Kind of like to see the final report and see if it kind of points us in the right direction so we can correct this problem, what's going on.
And myself, I agree with everything that you all are saying. I think we need to see the final report. We can sit here tonight until 9 o'clock and speculate on everything. And I don't think that's a good thing for us to do. I think right now, Peter, we're giving you the go ahead, and let's finish up this report and go from there.
Thank you.
Any questions from you guys to us, or what do you need for support, Peter?
Kelly, do you have any additional? did you need to look for? I don't know if she's still on. You might have lost her.
She has to turn back over the screen to me. Hold on. Okay.
Well, in the meantime, this is David Mooring again. Yeah, I mean, we've been working with Barb and Carl pretty closely if we need anything else. I think at this point we've received pretty much everything that we need. And I do know in our scope, you know, we are to provide like a draft version of the report for all of you to be able to look at and review before we go ahead and finalize it. So again, I know that Lauren mentioned we would regroup, and after we regroup, we'll be able to give you guys a little bit more concrete dates on when to expect some of these things.
Are we still looking at a 2-month completion date?
I think, you know, again, we'll have to jump back into it, but I don't think it will be a full 2 months. I think you'll certainly see a draft report well before that. And then we should be able to turn around. It'll more depend on how much time you want to review the report, I think will be the biggest factor on when that final report is provided.
Okay. What do you need from us as a commission or Jack and Barb to complete that report?
Sorry, I have to say that one more time.
Who was that? Was that Carl? What do we need from, what do you need from?
I think we got all the information. I think we're comfortable in what they both provided. They've done a great job in getting us all the data they could get. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Barbara, for working very hard and pulling all that stuff together. But I think we can proceed what we have. And again, we'll have some going back and forth, I'm sure, between the draft and the final report.
Okay. Any last minute comments from anybody?
Dave, yeah, just want to thank the Woodward and Curran team. It's been good working with them to date. I'm happy to hear you'll get us, the preliminary final report with some time so that we can digest it and have some go around. So I like what I'm hearing, and I'm happy and pleased to be working with your team.
One question I'm going to have with you guys before you leave is, if you can give Barbara a price, if we have a meeting with another municipality, what would your charges be to go to that meeting and represent us? Just in case it's needed. If you can think about that and get back to Barb on it.
This is Scott.
Yeah, we can do that.
We can do that. We can get you something. I think I'll just make the brief comment that, it's been really good to have the support of Barb and Carl, but also Jack has been good at getting information to us as well. So we've gotten the information. I think what we're seeing is, and I wish we could have come to this meeting and said, hey, we found, this really large chunk of I&I, and we know exactly where it is. But I think we all sort of knew from the beginning that synthesizing the data was potentially going to be one of the bigger challenges here. But looking at the pump stations and seeing some of the gaps in the data, at some point, given the gaps in the data, you may be able to get small water to give you better data going forward, but you may also think down the road about some investment in some flow metering as opposed to just doing the calculation, because I think it leaves a lot to be desired with changing conditions of the pump station and deterioration of impellers or VFDs and slow startups. And so the math isn't always as simple as the math. So it exacerbates it when there are gaps in those measurements, but it's also not perfect even if you measure it every week, because there are those mechanical deteriorations that happen. So measuring the actual flows leaving the station is really the way to reconcile it at some point in the future.
Well, I think we're going to be looking for you guys to help us with that, either with a checklist or some sort of recommendations that our next sewer contractor can use in the field. As of now, SWS is out of the picture, so it doesn't matter what you got. What you got is what you got, and that's all you're going to get. That's right. I guess from there, going forward, we can start looking at this as a group and get it ready. Also, just so you're aware, we have our town meeting on the 13th of June, which is Saturday, and then town elections after that. So we'll see what kind of a commission we have after the elections coming up.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you all.
that was very good. Carl and Bob and Jack, thank you very much for working with them. Hopefully we'll get this thing solved. It's not going to happen overnight, but at least we're all aware of it and what we can do.
Yep.
Okay, Bob, let's go on. Current business. FRP status. Bob, you're muted. Let me unmute you.
Can do it too. I just got it actually in my email as we were about to commence the meeting, and I can send it out, but I don't know if people have access to it to read it right now, but I had just gotten it from Adam.
Just send it out. The question I got is, have you guys met with Adam?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you guys corrected the problems or the language?
Yes.
You, Adam, and Bob happy with it?
Well, I haven't seen the final, Dave.
Okay.
You just got it.
Heather's got a copy of this too?
Yes.
Okay, do me a favor, when you guys get it, look at it, send it to the commission. But if you, Heather, guys sign off on it, I don't think we're gonna have a problem, but let's get it going because we gotta get a new company on board to go out to bid. Is that agreeable with everybody?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, I don't know, what you're sending out, Barb, will that have track changes in it? Because I'm anxious to know what changed from the document that we approved.
It was massively changed because not the text, the content was not changed. The ordering was. It's not tracked. It has Adam's red line, the last one I got from him. But his main concern was to clarify the billable versus what was covered under the flat fee and what was covered hourly. So it had it had major format change, so I don't have it tracked. I would recommend you just do a compare because there is not a tracked document.
I think what Adam did was take our RFP, put it into a language that he can defend so that if this ever happens again, he can go back and defend it. So he probably separated into two sections, what's billable and what isn't. And that's the easiest way for us, everybody, to handle it. Is that kind of correct what he did?
In the time we spent with him, Dave, there were some redundancies. He didn't change the substance. He did reorganize the order.
Okay.
And eliminate some of the redundancy. That's about as clear as I can be.
Well, that was one of the problems with the first RFP was we're trying to cover ourselves as making sure everything is in the RFP, and we were redundant. I know that for a fact. So again, the bottom line to me is that the lawyers can defend this and the town once it's signed and gone out to an RFP. Does anyone else have any questions on that? John?
No, I'm all set.
Brett?
No, I like the idea of taking out the redundancy as long as it's all there.
Okay, Mike?
I'm good.
Okay, and Mike D, you haven't seen it yet, but you'll fill that in as soon as you get written in on the election. And Carl, I know.
Yeah, I think you've got.
Go ahead, Jack.
You guys got to see it, Dave. You got to see it.
Yeah, we got to see it.
We've all got to see it.
But at this point, what we tried to do when we did this was to make sure that it's protection of the town and the commission, and most of all our customers. If you guys feel comfortable with it, I'm going to back you on it. So that's my attitude towards it. Okay. And thanks for the work.
That's a good attitude, Dave, but I think the commission needs to see it, and as you said, sign off on it.
I need you to look at it, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I would sign off on it. But it's Adam, the one who's going to have to defend it. So that's a good thing.
So this will be on the agenda for our next meeting?
Yes.
Hopefully you release it. Great.
Well, no. Yes, it'll be on the agenda as far as what the actions are going to be taken.
Yeah. Right.
I'm just reading as I go along, I guess. So when this will go, I really want to get this thing out to bid. So time is up the essence. So I did talk to Heather today, and as soon as she gets the final ones from you guys, We like to get it out as soon as possible. And if you're gonna send it to us today or tomorrow, like I said, if you're comfortable with it, if it's not blatant, I would say, go through the rounds. If anybody has a comment on it, send it to Barb, but it's not gonna keep going back to legal because that's his shot, and it should be done correctly. And I want to try to keep the legal bills under control when it comes to this. So I think we're just about done with it. And we are, that's a major hurdle that we've all gone through over the last couple of months. So again, thank you for all that. Okay, 1170 Mass Ave, Betterment. Tell me that's done.
Mr. Chairman?
Huh?
Mr. Chairman, just before we move on, could we just briefly talk about on the RFP? Because I know it was important to you, and we've got some other information on how we're going to make sure that when the RFP goes out, it gets to the biggest audience that we can. I mean, I know I've sent you one.
I sent an email out to some of my connections that I'm going to send to Heather, and I'm going to request from Heather to send us a list on what publications she put it in.
Well, and there's certain, I sent you information from a company that was interested in bidding on it.
And when it goes out to bid, if I were you, I would call them up, because a lot of people don't get those things. So if you want to bid, I would say, hey, grab the bid. It's everything for less day in Lunenburg.
Well, I would suggest that any commissioners that think of anyone who we maybe should make sure that we bring this to their attention, that they provide that to Barbara, the commissioner, so we get as much information as we can.
Everybody got that?
Yep. Oh, I think, listen, Dave, if we put it in the central register, that's going to be more effective than people calling people they think they know. People who bid on anything and everything apply to the central register and then look at those things that directly affect their industry and choose to bid on it or not. So if it's in the central register, if Heather thinks that that's where it should go, that's where it'll go.
There's two philosophies on that. Right now, I agree with Jack. It's got to go in the central register anyways. But to keep on spending money, every time you put an ad in, it does cost money, but you want your biggest bang for the buck. But I'm kind of happy the way the situation is right now, to be honest with you. I'd rather go into the central register, tell your friend Carl if they want to bid, the package is ready, here's the information, and go from there. But that's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Anybody else have another one? John?
If I could comment.
Yep.
Last time this went out to bid, it went to the central registry and we only got one bidder, correctly?
Yep.
Water.
But that's our due diligence.
Yes, I think it should go there, but anyone who knows anyone who might be interested, I think they should point them in the right direction so they can bid on it.
Just keep in mind that when we bid out the DPW building, for example, we went to the central register. Jack, I think we went to the Telegram, the Sentinel, and the Ledger, which was not much. But we did solicit our own people too, people that that go up and get the package. So when the package goes out, you want to try to get the biggest audience. But the central registry is pretty big. But there's a lot of people who are very busy. They don't care either. So you got to go with who you know. And Carl, what you did with that company is great. I mean, it may work, it may not work, but at least they're going to bid. At least we hope they bid. You just don't know. Yeah. But keep in mind, we have a pretty good company working right now for us, and we'd like to continue in getting that done. I just want to lock everybody, whoever it is, we want to lock it up as soon as possible, which is, I think we're shooting for August 1st, Barb, if I'm not mistaken.
That was just based on the timing of getting it out, getting it approved, getting it out, getting the bids in.
Talking with Heather, we're kind of on the same page with you as far as we want to get it wrapped up. We got to start conducting business as usual again. So any other comments on this? Okay. 1170 Mass Ave. Tell me this is done. This
is done. The document is final. I did send out the notarized copy from Michael Ray. The question before you tonight is just whether you want as a commission to each go get your signatures notarized, or if you'd vote tonight to have Dave represent and just one signature would be sufficient.
So let's put a motion out there. Who would?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Carl.
I'd like to move that we authorize the chairman to sign the notarized document on behalf of the sewer commission.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Reynolds? He's in the closet over there. I for myself. Barbara, I'll stop down. John, did you hear that question?
Sorry, I had you take off for a second there.
That's okay. It's a vote to have me go down and sign Michael Ray's 1170 Mass Ave.
Yes, absolutely. I support it.
Okay, so Barb, where is it going to be? Is that your office or?
I can bring it up to the clerk's office and ask, and have you stop in there.
Okay, does it need to be notarized while I'm there signing it?
Yes.
And does she have a notary there?
Yeah, either both Ellen and Kathy are notaries.
Okay. So a motion to approve. Do we need that, Barb?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Barb,
Well-
do we need a motion to approve this or is it all done?
Oh, yes, I already said aye.
No, I mean, as far as the whole document done.
Right. I believe the vote to have you to sign on behalf will cover the fact that we're trading out that signature page, so it's just your signature. So I think that's covered by that.
Okay,
The only other thing on it is that we are gonna, now that this is approved, I would like your vote to approve an abatement of the $4,122.79. That is the remaining balance of the betterment that was out there to be assessed or in the last quarter of the year.
okay. Looking for a motion to abate Ms. 1170 Mass Ave of 4122.79. Any motions? I'll make a motion that we abate the property at 1170 Mass Ave of 4122.79. I need a second.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, Mr. Reynolds,
Aye.
Mr. Ramson,
Aye.
Mr. Notes,
Aye.
Mr. Luck,
I abstain.
and I for myself. Town meeting, 613, Commission Article 4, Barb.
Yeah, and it's just to review the 4 articles. The fourth one that's before you or before town meeting is whether we had enough in the FY20 budget. The trajectory we were going on with small water was putting us in danger, so we had put that in as an emergency kind of stopgap. That year-to-date budget that was sent out today shows we have about 100,000 in a buffer, so I think we're fine. I believe it should be passed over. But it's up to you.
Any questions on the town meeting articles? I see none. Okay,
Okay, I'll let Heather know that we'll just pass over that last one.
yep. Okay, let's go to next item is year-to-date FY20 budget.
And that was much more of the same. Everybody got a copy of it, and I had sent one this morning, and then we had a couple more invoices come through. I just wanted to give you the most accurate. It's showing 115,000 surplus. We go with commitment values because that's what we have to go with, but the accountant and the town go by what has been collected. So we still have almost a full month of collection, and it's a difference of about 100, but I believe we'll get close. We'll close the gap between the accountant's number of what's been collected and what we've committed, and we will get it eventually. So
that's very good.
Yep.
Right, okay. Any questions on that? Anybody? Carl?
Yeah. I don't have the latest one up here, Barb, so let me know if it really is substantially affects the discussion. I guess the first thing I forgot, I'm sorry. On this chart, there's an approved FY20 budget and there's an actual FY20 budget, and I'm wondering what's the difference. I didn't
those are the shifts
know we
in.
had 2 budgets.
They are the shifts in the budget lines to cover expenses. The bottom line remains the same, but when we need some in infrastructure and we had it in I&I, we shifted over. The bottom line remains unchanged.
Okay, so that's sort of the current revised, okay, I understand,
Right.
I understand what it is. In the connection fees, there's a pretty good increase there, right? 30,000 versus budgeted 19. So there's more connections. There must be more connections than we had budgeted for, I guess. That's why we got more fees, correct?
Yes.
And are those additional connections already accounted for down below in terms of the fees we pay?
I have not finished with the connection fees for Leominster and Fitchburg, so that's part of my year-end process also. But we'll make sure to pay off those fees before the end of the fiscal year. If I can pull it up, I can see the detail behind it. Hold on. Sometimes if I know an amount, I will have plugged it in. So let me just see what I got.
Were they primarily Leominster connections? We do better there than Fitchburg.
Yeah, let me just see. I'll be able to tell you. I don't think I have any Fitchburg connection fees to be paid. And it does. I have included in that what are known expenses, the additional connection fees that we owe to Leominster. So there's $4,000 in there that account for connection. So the answer is yes. I may have one more. I think maybe I have to look again before end of year, but it does reflect payments below.
Okay, so the more updated chart that I'm looking at has $4,000 more in fees than what I'm looking at, 7,800 in fees, which is the adjusted budget. So is that higher in the most up-to-date chart?
We had budgeted 7,800. Or we had budgeted 5,000. We had
Right.
adjusted it to 78, and it's been adjusted to match what our expected expenses are of 78.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Next one is Leominster I&A billing changeover for meter flows. Any update?
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't finished.
Okay, I thought you were. Go ahead, go back.
Investment income is quite a bit higher than we projected.
I saw that also, and my thought is that can also go down. That was from Munis, like June 4th. That report is always a little behind, and I don't know if it's been updated since we had such a dip in the stock market, so that also could dip. I don't, that's a movable object until we have year-end closed. That won't be final. That's not in our control.
Yeah, it's just it's 12. We're assuming $12,000 more income there.
Yeah, it was a good year until recently.
The next one is, and Dave mentioned earlier, trying to keep our legal fees down. My understanding of the agreement with the town was that we were going to turn over our $5,000 budgeted amount to the town, and unless there was, further discussion, in which case we said we needed to start to talk about what the billable rate is, that it would stay 5,000. I see here now we've got 8,500, and that's probably not the end of it. So what is the current agreement with the town? If we go over 5,000, that's a problem.
Right, and I think and I can talk with Heather about it, but your recollection is the same as mine, that it was 5,000 that was transferred automatically. I'm just on my own report trying to track what we have been billed. That is not necessarily what's been transferred to the town. The agreement on record is the 5,000 at this point, and then we're to look at what was spent.
Good, okay. All right, so just for everybody's sake, because most of the people weren't here, you know, what we agreed was that we would transfer our budget of 5,000 to the town rather than you know, start going into a more complicated billing structure where we have to determine what the effective rate is that we're charged. So as long as it's 5,000 and we can hold that, that's great. So that actually helps our goodness, because we're showing $3,500 here that we actually don't need to expend. Okay, great.
Hey, Carol, we got to start going here. Let's go. We got to wrap it up.
Well, we can stop now if you like.
I'm sorry?
I can't read my note. Hang on 1 second, Dave. Oh, just out of curiosity, you talked about the our system operator contract. We've got 34,000 left there, it looks like. What was the April billing? Do you remember, Bob?
From Swiss?
No. We should have gotten our first bill from the interim contractor.
Right. Let me pull it up. Been a whole lot. It's been a whole lot better. I'll say that.
Yeah. That's why I like good news is good.
Yeah. Sorry. For April, Jesus, I don't like working on a laptop. Sorry. I like my mouse. All right, for April, expenses. 450, 429. Who's there? $4,231.72.
You're kidding.
Wow, you've got to be kidding. That was for, well, when they start, second week of April? So that's maybe 3 weeks or something? That's fantastic.
4. Yeah. Oh, I lied. Hold on. There was more. I apologize. I had a May one in there. I thought it ended. So let me just. Now it's been, I mean, Jack can speak to this. It's been a very, very refreshing change. All right. So I'm sorry. It's 6713, but there's just one in there from May, 2 in there for 650. So basically 6,000.
Super. Thank you, Barb. I'm all done, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Barb.
Yep.
All right, Leominster INA. That one there, I know Mike and I are scheduled to meet with Leominster. I really want to meet with Leominster after we get the current report. There's a lot of information there we could sit down and talk with Leominster with. And I'd like to know everyone's quick thoughts on that. And we'll start with Michael Notes.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's probably going to be a while for Leominster to sit down with us, but yeah, I'd like to have the report in hand because it's showing, you know, obviously there's something going on there. So hopefully it'll be a negotiating tool.
That's what I think. It's a very good negotiating tool. Okay, Brett?
I agree. Get that final report. We've got some reality to show them what we're up against and talk it through.
Well, plus it shows them that we care and we're trying to do something about it. Carl?
Correct.
Yeah, I hate to be Mr. Contrarian, but I don't think that final report's going to help us at all. I think we already have the information of how much I&I we have. We have that information. I think waiting for that final report is dangerous because once we will have already received, by then, we will have already received our first billing against the meters. And, you know, once they start taking that to the bank, I think you and Mike are going to have a tough job turned into an impossible job to get them to undo the billing and revenue source that they've already started tapping. So I don't see how that report's going to help. It's going to be, it's just trying to find out what we are, where it's coming from. What we already know is being shipped off to Leominster, where it's coming from. And I don't, we can show them all of the money we've spent on I&I and the money we're spending on.
Oh, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, if we wait, I think you have a fool's mission of, after they've already billed us, against the meter, of trying to convince them to go back.
Barb, what's the status of Leominster? Are they billing us against the meter, or what are they doing?
We've gotten Q4 billing based on the old method, and I'm assuming that the next, they've already said they will start taking the meter readings 4/1, so 4/1 through 6/30, and then we will be billed based on meters for the next bill.
Okay.
But it's in FY21.
So in July, they will have billed us against the meters.
When's that bill due? In July?
It's
When did we get that bill?
it may be more mid-August that it's comes through, because we just got it mid-May. Excuse me, the last one mid.
All right, minutes for 5/16. Everybody read the minutes?
I need to jump in, don't I? I had a commitment. I just wanted your approval, and we'll have everyone sign it at the next, in-person meeting. May I do that, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Q4 commitment is for $206,382.29. Mail date was 5/22. Commitment I have is dated as June 9th as the date of this meeting. So as long as you are in favor of that, I will put it through to the accountant's office.
Do you need a vote?
Yes, please.
So I need a motion. Anybody like to make a motion?
To approve the commitment for $206,382.29.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Mr. Reynolds.
Aye.
Welcome back, by the way. Mr. Luck.
Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Luck.
Aye.
Mr. Ramson.
Aye.
Mr. Knowles.
Aye.
And an aye for myself. Okay, minutes. Okay, Barb?
Yep, thank you.
Minutes for 5/26. I need a motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for the 5/26/2020 Sewer Commission meeting.
Second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Mr. Luck? No? All in favor? Mr. Luck?
I abstain. I didn't get a chance to read them.
Mr. Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Ramson?
Aye.
Mr. Knowles?
Meeting adjourned at 6 o'clock. I approve.
And an aye for me. Business management reports. Go ahead, Barb.
We've got another Mead-Tollerman bill, and it is reflected in that year-to-date. It was for it was April 22nd through May 13, and it totaled $2,265, 15 hours, dealing either with 1170 Mass Ave, sewer rate increases, or the Swiss contract. So just so you know, that's what was provided.
Okay.
That's the only invoice I have.
So Barb, relative to the discussion before, what's the significance of that invoice?
They always they send us this. It's not
Okay.
It's not a journal entry. It is just, we're copied on, I think Mead-Tollerman breaks down every department's
Yes.
hours for each month.
So it's just information. It's not actually an invoice we're authorizing.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, Barb?
Oh, sorry. Grease Trap, we've actually gotten all but one First Tuesday report in. A lot of restaurants are closed, but people are trying to keep up with compliance. I updated the website recently with the rate increase. updated the irrigation policy with the implementation date, and, you know, mentioned all the different COVID processes. So the website has been updated. Irrigation meter fee, I was debating in my head what we would be doing about it. If people didn't pay, I kind of probably overstepped my bounds. I just need to get your acknowledgement or approval that if we don't receive fees by, well, by the end of the month, I have it written, if we don't receive it by June 30th, could we consider it a withdrawal from the program? And if, or whatever date you pick. And then I think I would send out a mailing to the remaining people that have not submitted their fees. And this may have to be an agenda item for our next meeting.
Let's make it an agenda item for the next meeting,
Got it.
especially if
Okay.
he's talking about suspending and stuff like that.
Right. That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. Okay. We'll wait on this for the next one. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, the last thing before we adjourn is I want to bring the elections back to the front that we talked about at the beginning of the meeting. In your packet, you probably didn't get this until later on, but we made a list of all the people who are voting for, that we're asking for to vote on 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year terms. Have you all seen that?
Yes.
That's for you to pass out to your friends on email. You don't have to go to the ballots and pass them out. I don't think you're going to need a lot of votes, but the more friends and family you have, you can send that out, or you can do it individually. It's up to you, but that's the way we submitted it. I put it on a couple of the town web Facebook pages. I think all of you have seen that in one form or another. I talked to Kathy Herrig at the town clerk the other day, and I told her what to expect, gave her a copy of that list because she has a hard time filling in the information. So Brett, hopefully this is answering a lot of your questions that you brought up at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
Pass out to your friends, and I'm going to pass out to my friends, and so on and so on and so on. And I'll put it on Facebook a few more times, and don't be afraid to put it on Facebook. The election, obviously, the results aren't going to be made right away. So the way it worked is that we have a full commission on election day. Now, what I don't understand was Kyle was going to resign on election day, and we're going to have Mike reappointed. So Kyle, is that what you're still planning on doing?
No, if you recall, Dave, I was particularly interested in making sure that we see through the projects that I've been working on for many years. So I'll probably be staying until the Woodward and Curran report is done at least.
That's disappointing. Mike, this will be your last meeting for the sewer commission. All the work that we did to try to put a commission.
You're welcome, Mike.
I'm not happy about this. I thought we made the plans. You know, we're trying to fill this commission slot. We have a full commission. Kyle, I was hoping you would keep your word and leave on the, as you said it numerous times, that you're going to resign at the election. So,
Mr. Chairman, I did not ever say I was going to resign at the election. Matter of fact, last time I said I would stay at least until after the election. I don't know why, and I take great resentment with your.
fine. You know what? I'm not going to get a debate with you now, Mr. Luck. But that's what you did say your last meeting was going to be at the town election. So you're still on a commission. So we'll end it at that note. Mike, again, thank you for your service to the sewer commission. Unless you want to take my place, because we came back to help this commission. So that's not right, but it is what it is. I'm looking forward to working with Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Ramson, and Mike. I'm looking forward to working with you as well. I'm looking for a motion
Big man, Mr. Davis.
to adjourn.
Any public comment here?
I'm sorry, any public comment? Yes, public comment.
I just want to reiterate what I said earlier, in that I think we certainly recognize tonight the importance of those reports that Wastewater was supposed to be putting out on a regular basis, and the accuracy of those reports. You know, just for the data, and it, you know, potentially does point out maintenance issues. So whether it's going to be the commission or the sewer department. I don't want to get into that debate. I just think if we're going to continue with these reports, we really need to have someone looking at them.
I agree. Any other public comment? Brett? Mike?
Um,
Did you ask me, Dave, or Mike?
No, Brett, I asked you first.
Oh, yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, Mike?
Which Mike?
Which Mike?
Michael, no.
Well, I'd just like to say I'm, always back for work a day if I'm needed. So I was hoping to follow this through also, but that's okay. I mean, it's going to be a good committee, I guess. So let's see what
And we're
happens.
going to make it, Mike.
And Mikey D?
I'm just I agree with what Mr. Reynolds was saying about the reports and maintenance and everything else. I kind of look forward into diving in that with you guys and see if we can get everything up to par and make sure we can run everything efficiently as possible.
Well, on my public comment, I'm looking forward to working with all you guys. I think we've gone a long way already. We're going to have to go along further, but we are on the right road. And I got to thank Barb and Jack for their cooperation over the last few months. And right now, our next meeting is scheduled for, what's the date on the next meeting, Barb?
June 30th,
Which will be new officers will be elected that night, so you can throw that on the agenda.
correct.
But I
I
think,
will, yeah, and I will not be at that. This is my annual trip to Vermont.
Right now you know how to use Zoom. So you can attend, Barbara.
Not, it's a campground and it's not very good for
I
connection.
understand Bob has commitments, so Jack, maybe you and I can set up a quick meeting that night with a small agenda and at least get the officers in line, because it's going to be right after the election that we have to really, we can't go another, what was it, 3 weeks after the election for a meeting, so maybe a quick meeting just to summarize and get acquainted with the new board. You agree with that, Jack?
Yeah, I'm always available for a meeting, Dave, if not for the entire thing, and try to make every meeting I can.
So this will be a quick meeting. So Bob, before you leave on vacation, can you do the agenda or let Heather know and
Sure.
blah, 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 blah.
Certainly.
I think what's important as we wrap up is to take a look at that new and revised document from town council and make some comments on that if you must. And let's put that behind us, and we can get somebody on board, and then we get generated people on board. But I think that got a little longer and protracted because of the situation we're in, for sure. But I think it was worth the time and any expense through council, because typically, anytime we do a bid for a large project or a contract for a large project or something, a boilerplate that hasn't already been looked over by council, it's not unusual for council to have the last word. So this document isn't being singled out. This is typical of what happens.
Well, I thought they did a pretty good presentation, but I like to see the full package before we even get into it. And it's kind of hard to do it on Zoom. And
I'm talking about the RFP, but you're not going to. They told us from the beginning, you're not going to find any I&I when they're finished. And what I see, I kept quiet, and I think they put a lot of work into it. But what I see is what we already know. When it rains, we get higher amounts. It's all really that. I mean, not to minimize the work, but that's what it comes down to. When we get heavy rains, we get heavier flows.
well, you know what? We're going to have a good commission and go forward, so together we can try to fix this problem.
Sure.
I know a part of our agenda is, and we're going to be changing some things. Again, whoever the chair or the new chair, but we have to look at the business and see about growing it, securing it, making it easy on everyone. But we've gone a long way since January, I think, especially with all the pitfalls we've had with the COVID-19 and so on. So again, thank you. I can't thank you guys enough for what you've done. And Mr. Luck, thank you for all your help you've done too. If you're not on the board, you're not here on the meeting right now, but thank you for your work you've done. Any other questions? Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Brett, did
I'll
you?
second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, Mr. Reynolds,
Aye.
Mr. Knowles,
Aye.
Mr. Ramson,
Aye.
and an aye for myself. Mike, thank you very much, Mikey D. And Bob and Jack, thank you. And Jane, God bless you wherever you are. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Thank you, everyone. Be
Good
safe.
night.
You too.
Good night, everybody.